Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. Back here today with Simon and Sterling for the third time.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the National League, step 1 of the football non-league pyramid, and step 5 of the English football pyramid. This league also includes the National League Cup, which has been introduced in the last couple of years, which was won by Leeds under 21s last season. So a new competition coming into the league, which adds some more games into the league, of course. So what do you think of the competition being added to the league? Do you think it benefits teams in the league, or do you think it affects them?
I think it's probably detrimental personally because they've already got the FA Trophy and the FA Cup, and there's a lot of games to be played. So I don't know whether it was introduced because the teams themselves were agitating for it, or whether the FA thought there was a gap there. But I would have thought some of the smaller sides with smaller squads and smaller budgets would be particularly keen on that type of competition.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if Leeds under 21s are winning it, then it doesn't really suggest that teams like York or Barnet last season, for example, are really taking it that seriously, because you'd think that they'd beat Leeds under 21. So yeah, I think it's good. Another chance for silverware in that respect. But yeah, I agree with Dad mainly.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, just another competition for teams in this league on top of the National League, which we will now be talking through the 24 teams going into this new league season, of course, in alphabetical order again. So we will start off with Aldershot Town, also known as the Shots, based in Hampshire, formed back in 1992 with who play at the Recreation Ground and has 7,000 capacity at their stadium. Last season, 5 points above the drop zone, but were only 11 points away from the playoffs at the same time, which shows how tight the league was last season between the drop zone and the playoffs, which is what the fans want to see when they come to watching this league, especially. So great to see that. Last, they won the FA Trophy, which is a massive achievement for them, beating Spennymoor 3-0 after they beat Woking in the semi-finals 2-1, their rivals, to get to the final. So some silverware for the club, which is huge in non-league football, especially, and FA trophies also special as you get a trip to Wembley as well. So really good for them last season. Last season, the league, as I said, finishing in 16th place. So how do you think, the FA Trophy win can inspire them to go do bigger and better things coming into this season?
Well, you think on paper it would do, wouldn't you? I mean, it engenders a winning mentality, so you'd think that would reflect in the day-to-day grind of the league. I think the year before they went on a pretty good FA Cup run. I think they got into the third round of the FA Cup in 23-24. So they seem to be sort of on the up, but I just don't see the quality in the squad really that's going to get them anywhere other than sort of down towards the bottom. I've got them finishing 19th. They've obviously got that sort of cup pedigree, which with the FA Cup run and now the trophy win, I imagine is where their priorities will probably lie. As long as they can keep themselves in the National League, I think they'll probably be happy with that. So I've got them 19th.
Yeah, I think, as Dad said, on paper, it definitely will bolster them up a bit. But I just think when you take into account a whole league season and then a run in the cup, these things are massively different. So, what you need for a really strong title or promotion push, similar attributes, but very different in some respects as well. I think going for the league is harder, so I don't necessarily think that's going to mean they're right up there. So I've got them in 11th.
Yeah, nice. I'm quite similar to you there, Sterling. I've got them in 9th place. I think from my question which I asked, I think that could benefit them, keeping quite a lot of the squad from last season. Could, build a good morale in the squad going into this season, obviously beating their rivals in the semi-final, getting a bit of bragging rights there, which is always good for football fans. So ninth place for me, not quite in the playoff places, but in and around there with some decent signings, including Ben Jackson from Brighton, good youngster, Will Nightingale, from Wimbledon, lots of appearances in the EFL, and Josh Brookin from Dorking, who was formerly of the Chelsea Academy. So some decent signs there. So ninth place for me. Moving on to Altrincham, who are a club based in Greater Manchester, who were formed back in 1891, and they play at Moss Lane, which has a capacity of over 7,800 people. So decently sized capacity at their stadium. Last season, narrowly missed out on the playoffs by 4 points, finishing in ninth place on 64 points. They've been in the National League since the 2020-21 season after being promoted from the National League North. Phil Parkinson has been at the club since 2017, so he's been a key part of their upward graph, really, in the last coming years. So that's good to see for the club. He's been there since 2017, as I said, brought them into the playoffs in the National League on one occasion and kept him in the league since then. So having a manager for that long, do you think that helps, bring the club on the rise, having a familiar face as your manager for so many years?
Yeah, definitely. I think it can only add stability. And they strike me as a club that is slowly building towards getting themselves into the Football League. So they sort of are improving season upon season. We've spoken about it before, but this is another club that has gone full time, which can only benefit them really. And I think they signed players like Charlie Kirk, who's got lots of league experience at Crewe and at Charlton. Not a prolific goal scorer, but I'd be interested to see how he gets on at this level. He was at Barrow last season, so he's sort of a player that would be quite interesting to see how he develops. But yeah, that steady progress, keeping the same manager going full time, I think that all goes well for them. I can't see them challenging, but they'd be sort of there or thereabouts in terms of playoffs. So I've got them just outside the playoffs in 10th.
Nice.
Yeah, I pretty much agree bang on with what Dad said. I think obviously having a manager when you're on an upward curve, staying with the club is only beneficial. And look like they signed some decent players. Luke Hutchinson from Bolton on loan, player from Accrington Stanley. So yeah, it looks like they're definitely on that upward trajectory. I don't think they're going to quite reach playoffs, but I think ninth for me.
Yeah, nice. I've gone with 12th, so bang on mid-table for me. Some good signings, as you said. Sterling, Luke Hutchinson, I think he's a goalkeeper from Bolton, so decent signing in on loan there. But not many big name signings which I'm aware of, which I know. But having a manager be at the club for so long, I think it's beneficial, having a familiar face in the club and a familiar tactics as well. So I think he's just grown and grown on that, getting players which are more used to his system. And I think 12th place is where they're going to finish after consistently being a stable club in the National League for the last couple of years. So yeah, 12th place for me for Altrincham. Moving on to newly promoted Boreham Wood, who are based in Hertfordshire, also known as the Wood. The club was founded in 1948 and play at Meadow Park with a stadium capacity of 4,500 people. So quite a small capacity compared to some other teams in this league. Last season, promoted from the National League South in dramatic fashion. Obviously, we talked about that last episode. I mean, getting in a playoff place was an achievement in the first place after it didn't really look likely, and they did in the end, beating Dorking, Torquay and Maidstone on their way and winning every one of those games. to get to the final and be promoted back to the National League straight after they were relegated from this league the season before. Manager Luke Gerhard, very well-known person at the club, becoming the manager of the club. Sorry, he played as a player in 2010 to 2014, 140 times, and then returned to the club as a manager in 2015. And he's been there ever since. So a lot of experience at the club for him, and he's ran the club back up. So as we saw last time for Altrincham, another familiar face in the job. I mean, do you think it's credit to them how they got into this league? Do you think it shows a bit of courage, and do you think it can, rally them on to stay up in this division for this season after such a impressive playoff win?
Well, I think they got into the National League by the back door almost, because they won those games against Torquay and Dorking, Maidstone, Torquay and Maidstone, with narrow victories that enabled them to get there. I mean, having a manager there, as we said before, is a long time can only be a benefit, but I just don't see the quality in that squad. They've not really added that much quality to the squad that was in the National League South. I've got them finishing 23rd. I think they'll be lucky to stay up, personally. I don't see the recruitment matching the level that it's going to need at this level, unfortunately. And as I said, had the rub of the green gone a different way, they probably wouldn't even be in this division.
Yeah, I agree again. I think, obviously, they did really well to win the playoffs, and not discrediting them at all, but I do think they got a little bit lucky. I do think those teams, Torquay, Dorking, even Maidstone, and obviously Worthing as well, were better sides last season. And you need a bit of luck to win the playoffs. So, as I said, not taking anything away from them, just my personal opinion. Doesn't look like they've massively recruited that well, and they've lost that Kwesi Appiah, who's gone to Ebbsfleet, and he's scored loads of goals in both National League South and National League. So yeah, he's got about 24 goals in 35 games in National League South. So he's definitely a competent player. They've lost him. I just think it's going to be a tough season for them, to be honest, and I've got them in 23rd as well.
Yeah, all three of us 23rd here. 23rd for me. As you said, quite lucky in an aspect of, obviously not. I mean, in a way of how well they did to beat all of those teams, but just in the matter of how many where they came in the table, it was a very unlikely story for them to get promoted after how close the National League South was last season. But some decent signings coming in from Tranmere, Charlton, Morecambe, York, Solihull. So players from this league which are established. So that's always a good sign. But yeah, 23rd for me. I think they'll struggle after the manager's already been relegated from this league with Boreham Wood. So they've brought in they have a manager that hasn't really established himself in this league at the moment. So hope they prove us all wrong here. We've all got them down, unfortunately, in 23rd place. Moving on to Boston United, who were formed back in 1933 and are from Lincoln, also known as the Pilgrims, and they play their football at the Boston Community Stadium, which has a capacity of 5,000 people. Decently big crowds could be turning up there for this upcoming season. Last season, narrowly staying up, finishing in 19th place on 55 points this season before they were promoted from the National League North, getting promoted via the playoffs. So they retained their spot in the league for this season, which is always a good thing. Manager Graham Colohan is a former player, played for Plymouth, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham, Shrewsbury, Sheffield United, Southend. So decent player playing career there, and then he started managing in 2018 and has now joined Boston after being at Newport previous to this job. So, decently experienced manager as a player. So, a lot of signings have been made here. A new look squad going into the season after a scare of relegation. So, do you think bringing in new signings after a scare of relegation is needed to sort of try get them up the table for this season?
Yeah, well, I think any squad needs rejuvenation. You can't go into this new season with the same old faces. You definitely need to change it up. And they've obviously looked at that close escape they had last season and gone out and recruited. Well, I think they've recruited really well. Jordan Cropper, for example, they just signed him on loan. They signed him permanently from Barnet, so lots of really good experience there. They've got a guy called Ben Grist on loan from Leicester as well. And if you look at the signings they've made, they tend to be in that sort of defence and midfield area, which suggests that they see that as the area to develop. I mean, that they probably will struggle against some of the bigger clubs, but I think they're too good to go down. They've got, as I said, some really good experience in there. I've got them 16th.
Yeah, I do agree with Dad. Again, I think they have recruited well by the looks of it. A lot of signings, which we spoke about, is tough to integrate. But a good season last season, just staying up. I think they'll stay up again. I've got them in 18th.
Yeah, I've got them in 21st, so I've got them just in a relegation spot. I just think being so close to relegation last season and getting a new squad, I think it's a fact of maybe the squad not gelling together quick enough, in my opinion. And as you've both said, I think they've made really good signings. On top of the ones you've already said, Alex Lancashire from Blackpool, I think he's Will Lancashire from Spurs' brother. So clearly some decent attacking threat going forward this season. So yeah, 21st place. I think it will be close, and as you've both said, I think it wouldn't be a surprise if they do stay up. But I've got them in 21st place for this upcoming season. Moving on now to Brackley Town, who are from Northamptonshire, founded back in 1890, also known as the Saints, and play at St James's Park, not at Newcastle, at Brackley Town,
Hey.
who have a capacity of 3,500 people. So not a big crowd for National League level, you wouldn't have thought, in terms of stadium capacity. But last season, promoted from the National League North after winning the league on 92 points, just 2 points better than Scunthorpe, who did get promoted via the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. So we'll move on to them later in this episode. But in the recent years, won the FA Trophy as well. So lots of teams in this division you'll frequently see winning this competition. So another team that's won that in the recent years. But manager Gavin Cowan's been at the club since 2023 and earned them promotion back to the National League. Not back to the National League, actually the first time in their history that they have been in this league. So big achievement for them. Previous to Bratton, he was at AFC Telford for 3 years, so not a bad side and a decent level to manage at, especially. So getting into the highest league in the club's history is a massive achievement. Do you think it adds a bit of pressure on the club and the players to sort of sustain being in this level, seeing as it's the highest the club's ever been in?
Yeah, hugely. I mean, they've been in existence for 135 years and never got this high. So it's going to be a culture shock more than anything else, I would imagine. I'm not sure if they're full time or not. I would doubt it personally. I mean, you're going to have the momentum behind them of being champions last season and coming up, but I think they're going to fall into the same bracket as Boreham Wood. I just don't think they've got the quality in the squad. They signed Jack Price, who's a sort of midfielder. He played for Wolves back in the day. nearly 100 appearances for Wolves. So he's got loads of experience, but I mean, he's one of the few signings they've made that actually have got the sort of experience you need even at this level. And he's no spring chicken. He's 32, so the daily grind of this level of football is gonna affect him, I'd have thought. So yeah, I've got them finishing 22nd. I think they go straight back down.
Yeah, to answer your question, I think obviously they'll wanna make it work and stay in this division, and there is a certain pressure that comes with that coming into the league for the first time. But I think probably more so it's dealing with the different levels of intensity and some of the crowds you're going to be coming up against in National League, and there's the excitement factor for the fans as well, rather than pressure. I think more the problems are, dealing with that added intensity with the fans and the teams and the added quality. And then when you take into account that they've not actually recruited that many people, I don't really know any of them that they've actually signed, other than what you've just said about that Jack Price. So, yeah, I think they're going to struggle. I've got them in 21st.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. I've got them in 18th. I think they'll stay up just on the basis of the amount of points they collected last season. 92 is obviously a massive points tally, and that doesn't, shy away from performances on the pitch. So keeping four of the squad, like you said, Sterling, only 4 players departing, as I'm aware of on my podcast information that I've got here, but they've also bolstered the squad as well. So doing that, I think will help them. As you said, Simon, Jack Price is a very established player in the leagues above. So yeah, I think it will be beneficial for them. An 18th place for me, where I'm going to have them for this upcoming season. But we will now move on to Braintree Town. Braintree, who are also a club from Essex, also formed in 1898, play at Cressing Road at a capacity of 4,000 people. Last season, stayed up by 4 points after returning to the National League via the playoffs in the National League South the season before, beating Worthing in the final. They've been in this. They've been in the league before. Gutted, yeah. That was when they had Brad Dillahan as well. So shows Braintree have got a decent squad, definitely, if they've kept some of the players from that, especially. So, but yeah, moving on from that, Steve Pitt is their manager. Helped the club stay away from safety at the halfway mark last after Angelo Harrop, who has now joined Chelmsford City, left after just winning 5 games in 20 matches, left them in a bad place near the halfway mark of the season. But Harrop has now joined Chelmsford City. Harrop's now joined Chelmsford City, and Steve Pitt is replacing him for his first proper season in charge of the club. So, how do you think the manager will do, knowing that he's got a side which he's obviously done well with after bringing them out of the relegation zone and having a full new season, pre-season with the squad, and getting the squad he had last year more used to the system he wants to play?
Yeah, it's definitely going to help, isn't it? I mean, they strike me as a sort of club that is going to struggle again, unfortunately. Their problem probably is scoring goals. You think of, you look at some of the signings. This guy, Lewis Walker, they've signed, for example, was at Woking, played 50 games and scored 8 goals. That's not the sort of return you need. So that's sort of what the market they're shopping in. They have made an interesting signing. There's a guy called Tommy Smith, who's a New Zealander that they've signed. He's a defender, centre half that's played over 200 times for Ipswich, so lots of really good experience. So they brought him in. So that's the sort of experience you're going to need at this level of football. 35, so you wonder how many games he'll actually play. But, I mean, you put players like that into that squad that battled against relegation last season, I think they probably just will maintain their place in the division. I've got them as 20th.
Yeah, and you mentioned the goals that they're going to be struggling for, and they've just lost that Kyril Lisby we've got here on our notes, who scored 17 goals in all competitions last season. So that's going to be another miss and affect them massively. Just touching on what you said about the goals, and I think that's going to be probably the biggest problem, because the manager has obviously had a good start there, and he's coming into his first full season. I think if they could have kept him and then added, I would have probably had him at the other end of the table, but I've got him in 17th, unfortunately, for Braintree.
Yeah, same as me there, 17th. I think I'm going to add on what you've just said, Sterling. Kyril Lisby was top draw last season for them, a real big factor on top of the manager coming, why they stayed up, really key part of the way. He wanted to play, and obviously he banged in the goals as well. But he moves on to Peterbridge United for an undisclosed fee, so they've clearly got some money for him, which is obviously a good thing for non-league the club. So I think the money they got from him might have been invested into players, as you said, Simonson and Sterling, some really good signings they've made as well. So I think again after the manager made a good start halfway through last season, so a full season at the club, I reckon they'll finish 17th with the additions they've made. Moving on now to Carlisle United, who are a club based in Cumbria and were founded back in 1904. They play their home matches at Brunton Park, which had 17,500 people. So a lot of people could be turning up to the ground this season. Not sure if the crowds will be that high, considering they have just exited the EFL for the first time in 21 years, which will be a massive hit, you would have thought, for the fans and the owners of the club, really. But yeah, they finished in the relegation zone, 42 points in 23rd place. This was after Mark Hughes, obviously a manager around England, replaced Mike Williams after he came out of retirement to try save the club. He did have a decent run, but I think the former gaffer really put him in a bad place for the upcoming season. Obviously, Mark Hughes coming in now, first full season at the club, played over 300 times for United. So a very, very well-known name around the English football world. So with Mark Hughes' experience, how do you think he'll help the club go straight back up after their heartbreak of being relegated out of the EFL for the first time in 21 years?
Yeah, I do. I've got them second. I think having someone of Mark Hughes' experience is invaluable, but I think more than that, he comes with a contact book, doesn't he? So I wouldn't have thought that their recruitment has stopped so far. Some of the signings they've made have got plenty of Football League experience. They don't really strike me as earth-shattering transfers, but they're obviously working to a budget. And I think the fact that you've got Mark Hughes there and his contacts is going to mean that you're going to. It's not just the actual signings themselves; it's the depth of the squad. If you compare it to some of the others in this division, it's already a pretty big squad with lots and lots of experience in the Football League. And with Mark Hughes there, they'll have the tactical nous, I think, to get out of this division. I don't think they're going to win it. I think they'll come second. But I just think that they're going to overpower teams that are going to struggle with the grind of the number of games that you're going to have to play in this division. 46 on top of the cup competitions. They're just going to come really strong, I think, and go straight back up.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw that Mark Hughes is taken over there. It's absolutely crazy, and it's a really good appointment. He brings all that experience, played at the top level, coached at the top level, so he's obviously a really talented manager, knows what he's doing. So I think it's going to be amazing for them. And I've actually got them in second as well. I just think the team that I've got first have a little bit more, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went up in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, I've got them in fourth place. Different to you both, I think. Obviously, like you've both alliterated on, I think Mark Hughes is a appointment for them. I think he came out of retirement to join the club. Obviously, he was in a bad position in the first place when he joined the club. But as you said, Simon, he's brought in some really good players. David Alaboye, I might have butchered that, as we always butcher some names on this podcast recently. But I think he's
Defo butchered that, mate.
definitely butchered it. But we'll see how that goes. But anyway, moving on from that. Yeah, I think he's a great winger, top class, and yeah, I think they'll do really well in the next coming season. So I'll be surprised if they don't get promoted with the quality of Mark Hughes going into next season. So yeah, hopefully they can get back into the Football League after the season. So we'll see how they get on. I've got them in 4th place. Moving on now to Eastleigh. Eastleigh are a club based in Hampshire and were founded back in 1946. I play Lake Stadium, which has a capacity of 5,000 people. So not a bad capacity for the ground, for the league. Sorry. Also known as the Spitfires, they finished 13th last season on 59 points, 9 points away from the playoffs and 7 points away from the relegation zone, which shows how tight the league was last season. Recently, the FA Cup third round in the 23-24 season before they lost to Reading, but beat Newport County. So beating teams in the league above them, obviously getting to the third round would have brought in some great money into the club as well. So that's obviously a great thing. But have been in the playoffs for many years. So having been in the league for many years and had some efforts being in the playoffs, you think, this season with some of the signings and departures they made this season, do you think they have a chance of going back up?
No, I mean, Calvin Davis is a good manager, and he's going to have the same sort of contact as Mark Hughes. I should imagine he's been in the professional game for a long, long time. So I think that will help. I mean, they just don't have the quality in the squad, I don't think, that's going to get them into sort of those top places. They may edge into the playoffs. I've got them as 7th at the moment. They've signed some good players. Josh Lundstrom, as a midfielder, they signed him from Oldham, where he played 60 odd times. Before that, he was at Altrincham, and then with Crewe and various loans. So he's got loads and loads of experience. That's the sort of player they're signing. So they've obviously got the finances to pay these players decent whack to play at that level, but they don't really have the quality and the goal scoring threat that's going to challenge those teams further up the table. So I wouldn't all be surprised to see them finishing higher, but I've got them 7th at the moment.
Yeah, that Temi Aweka from Maidstone as well, spoke about him on the last episode in terms of departures for them, but they signed him. He's a good centre-half. He scored a few goals last season, I think it was 5. So, yeah, few good signings coming in, a lot of departures. I actually went to see Eastleigh play when I was at uni, and the fans make a good noise, really nice ground as well, and they have a really good academy, should I say. And they've got a good system there going on with the academy, good youth setup. So that's obviously bolstering the club as a club in general, and they'll be getting some good youngsters coming through, no doubt about that. Just think in terms of the league, they've been solidifying themselves a little bit more as the seasons go by, and I think this season, I don't think they're going to pull up many trees, but I do think they'll be one to watch going forward. So I've actually got them in 12th this season for Eastleigh, but I hope they'll be able to push on because they're one of the teams that I have more of an affiliation to in this league.
Yeah, nice. I've got them in 10th, so similar to you. I think they'll push for playoffs this year. Good signings, as you said. Building on what you said, Aaron Blair, really good in the National League South last season. He gets a move to the league above after a really good, as I said. So, yeah, good signing there. Losing Chris Maguire, I think he's got some quite good experience in the EFL. He might be quite a big loss, but I think he might be getting on a bit now. So not sure about that. But yeah, I think this season they just won't quite get it. Build on what they had last season, finish a little bit higher, but me after they've been in the league for so long. So hopefully they get promoted via the playoffs, but we'll have to wait and see. A club based in West Yorkshire and
FC
formed
Halifax
back in 2008, which is the year I was born, so very recently. Shea men play
Young buck, mate.
Yeah. They play at the Shea, which has a capacity of 14,000 people. So a lot of people could turn up there next season if they push on for the playoff places, for example, which they did last season, getting themselves into sixth place, but very badly in the playoff games, losing 4-0 to Oldham, who did eventually go up from the league via the playoffs last season. But following the defeat in the playoffs last season as well, Chris Millington announces he was resigning as the manager from the club, and Adam Lakeland is the new manager, who's previously been at Kings Lynn, Curzon, Farsley, Celtic. So decent experience from the gaffer there. Having a manager who's left after 3 successful seasons at the club, getting them into the playoffs a few times. Do you think it adds pressure to the new manager to keep the club on the right path to get the Football League?
Yeah, I think losing Chris Millington's going to be a huge loss to this team. I really do. I'd like to see them go up because they're one of those Phoenix clubs that were formed back in the early 2000s after the original Halifax went bust. So it'd be nice to see them back in Football League, but they've been in the National League for a long time now, 12 years. And losing a manager with that experience after a playoff defeat is going to be a real blow to them, I think. I think they do comparatively well. I've got them finishing mid-table, they're 11th. And I think that sort of reflects a season of transition for them.
Yeah, to answer your question, it definitely adds pressure on the new manager. He's got big boots to fill with the previous manager just leaving after getting them to a playoff position. And yeah, I agree that it's going to be a bit of a transition. New signings coming in. There's a fair few departures as well. So I think they're not going to be touching playoffs. I've got them in 14th.
Yeah, I can agree on that. I think mid-table for me, I've got a 13th place. I think, as you've both touched on, losing a manager of that quality after, being successful at the club for so many years and then losing someone like that can affect them quite heavily. They've brought in some decent names. David Cower from Aveley, I think I've heard of, who's decent going forward. But yeah, 13th place for me. I don't think they've added enough to really go for a playoff spot this season. So the Shea men are in 13th place for me. Moving on now to Forest Green Rovers, who are a club based in Gloucester and were founded in 1889. The club play their home games at the New Lawn, which has a capacity of 5,000 people. Last season saw Forest Green reach the playoff semi-finals, but unfortunately losing to Southend on penalties, which is a tragic way to go out of the playoffs. But they finished in third place last season on 83 points, so a good league season after they were relegated 2 seasons in a row. Not 2 seasons in a row, sorry, from the League 2 to the National League after being in the EFL for 7 seasons. So first time back in the National League for a couple seasons now. They bring in Robbie Savage, who's a very well-known name in the football world. He comes in after being manager at Macclesfield Town for a couple of years. winning them the league and now bringing them into the National League North, I think. So he comes a league up at Forest Green, quite a shock arrival, you could say, for Forest Green after a decent league season last year, replacing their manager for Robbie Savage. So what do you think he can bring to the club after, last season's manager got him into third place in the playoffs, and Robbie Savage comes in with a new identity and ideas? What do you think he can bring to the club?
I think it's really exciting. I mean, you wouldn't have predicted this, that he'd have people like Mark Hughes and Robbie Savage managing at this level, but I think it just adds to the excitement for the league overall. This lot goes straight back up. I mean, there's such strong teams at the top. I think they'll struggle. I've got them finishing third just because of the quality of the teams above them. But yeah, Robbie Savage, same as Mark Hughes, he brings that contact book with him. He also is going to build a really strong squad with not just the league experience, but also just the sheer numbers of players that have got that experience. And that's going to help them with the grind of a 46-game season. I'd be really excited to see how they get on. I think they'll do well. And I think he'll make a success of it, Robbie Savage, because in these days, football, more and more, is less about systems and more about people management. And I think he's a really good people person. So I think he'll do really well. His success with Macclesfield illustrates that. So, yeah, they do well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good appointment. Robbie Savage coming in. Obviously, the club has been a Football League side in not too recent history. They actually played the Albion, didn't they, a few seasons ago, if you remember?
If I
Beat him on penalties, but they did take us to penalties, so that was a bit nervy. Seems like penalties isn't the strongest aspect of the side, so they'll be hoping to avoid playoffs again. But yeah, some guys from Macclesfield coming with Robbie Savage as well, Trey Pemberton, Laurent Mendy as well, and Neil Kengry as well. Kengney, defo butchered that again. So some good pronunciation from us on this pod. But I think that'll add to it as well. He's obviously got trust in them, built up that relationship, and said, "Come over," and they've got the trust in him. So they obviously want to play for him. I do think they'll do well, but I don't think they've got, as Dad said, as much as some of the teams above them. So I've got them in fourth.
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I've got them in third. I agree with you both in the fact of I don't think they have enough to really go for the title. I mean, Savage is obviously a great player as well, and proven it in Premier League. So obviously that experience from leagues above in his playing days. But managerial wise, he hasn't really been in many clubs. Obviously, getting promoted to the National League North, massive achievement for him. So he definitely comes into the job with a positive mindset. I mean, losing Teddy Jenks, who's formerly of Albion, I remember, central midfielder Jamie Searle, I think he went, or who did he go to? Someone in the National League South, I can't remember now. Oh no, it was Eastbourne Borough. He went to Eastbourne Borough, goalkeeper. Also losing Ben Tozer, formerly of Wrexham. So some decently well-known departures going out of the club, but they've replaced them with a lot of good players. So I think third place is a decent place for Forest Green. Could push for a title position, you never know. But now we move on to Gateshead. Gateshead are a club based in Tyne and Wear, founded back in 1977. They play at the Gateshead International Stadium, which has a capacity of 11,800 people. So decently big size ground. They were close to getting the playoffs last year, finishing 8th, just 1 point outside the playoff places on 67 points. This was a decline from the season before where they got into the playoffs on 75 points, but fell promoted via them. That same season, they did win the FA Trophy, so another team in this league winning the competition. So got some silverware under their belts. New manager Alan Armstrong replaces former manager Gary Magny at the helm of the club for the season, after being a club for a short stint, October 2024 to June 2025. New manager Alan Armstrong comes in after being previously at Darlington and Blythe Spartans, so from leagues below, I'm pretty sure. So a step up for him coming into this season. So he's also brought in a lot of players, as well as selling quite a few. Do you think he's brought in players which will be used to his system, and sold players which he doesn't think will suit right for the system he wants to play for the club this season?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he's got bags of Football League experience, Alan Armstrong, so he obviously knows what he's doing. They just don't seem, to me, there's too much churn there, I would have thought, for them to maintain that push for the playoff places. I've got them finishing 13th. It'll be a year of transition for them, and they'll be quite happy to sort of finish mid-table, maybe go on a couple of cup runs.
Yeah, I think similar. I think they're going to struggle. New manager coming in, a lot of new signings. One notable departure for me is Greg Ollie leaving after 220 appearances for the club. That's going to be big. So, got a new manager coming in, trying to settle in. If you had him there, he would really take him under his wing and, provide that experience. Just without him, it's like, okay, now we've got a new manager. We've lost one of our, I presume, club legends, maybe even the captain, I don't know, but really experienced players. It's just, you're thinking, well, who's going to grab them by the scruff of the neck? Who's going to lead the team? Who's going to really help them in those hard moments and provide that experience and just know-how for the whole club? I think they're going to struggle, but I don't think they'll have enough to go down. I've got them in 19th.
Yeah, fair enough. 15th for me. I think they've the manager's brought in some good additions. Don Telford is a great striker at EFL level. I think he's dropped down the league to play in the National League this season. So decent goal threat going forward. That's for sure going into the season. But yeah, as you touched on there, Greg Ole is probably going to be a big after making that many appearances in the club. So yeah, 15th for me. I don't think they'll really be threatening relegation or the playoff places really. So 15th for me, bog standard season for Gateshead in my opinion. So yeah, moving on to Hartlepool Town, club based in Durham, founded back in 1908, and they play at Victoria Park, which has a capacity of 7,800 people.
Down the road, mate, Victoria Park.
Yeah.
Not back door.
Yeah, exactly that.
New Victoria Park.
Finishing 8 points away from the playoffs and 8 points away from relegation last season, which is quite funny to see, showing how tight the league was last season. As I said, this was after an 11th place finish in the table, 60 points. So exact same points tally as the season before. So very impressive to do that. After being relegated from League Two in the 22-23 season. New manager for the season, Simon Grayson, who's had really good experience in leagues above in Leeds, Huddersfield, Preston, Sunderland, and more. So very good experience from the gaffer. We're seeing a lot of managers brought into National League football, which are really experienced. Do you think managers from higher leagues are interest from managing in the National League because of how competitive it's been in the last couple of years?
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, it just shows you how strong the English football pyramid is, really. You've got managers of the calibre of that we've spoken about before, Alan Armstrong, Robbie Savage, and Mark Hughes at this level. It really is a place where people want to manage. It's interesting that they tend to be managers that are on their way, not down, but there's no up and coming managers that we've really come across so far. So it's interesting that maybe they've got assistants that are up and coming rather than that being up and coming managers themselves, because there's so much to play for in this division. Getting into the Football League is huge, and I think that's why chairman and ownership groups want to appoint experienced managers. This interesting team, club Hartlepool, because they've been in the news recently because Jeff Stelling, who used to present Sky Sports football coverage, he's been
In Soccer Saturday.
Soccer Saturday having a row with the current owner because he's fallen out with the current owner, and the current owner's told clubs all around the National League not to let him into the ground or not to give him hospitality. And Jeff
It's
Stelling
ridiculous.
bit and bat about that. So
Yeah.
I think they do quite well. I've looked at some of their signings. They've signed some really interesting players. They've got a guy called Jermaine Francis who plays for Granada. He was at Braintree Town for last season, scored 8 goals, and has got bags of experience at non-league level. Scored 18 goals for hashtag in a season a couple of years ago. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. And Danny Johnson is another forward they signed who's got experience in the Football League and in non-league levels as well. So I think they'll do all right. And they've obviously got the financial clout behind them with the current owner, who seems to be intent on taking them on to bigger and better things. So I've got them finishing 6th.
Yeah, I've got them finishing a bit further down than you, actually. Got them finishing 10th. I know they had a bit of an average season last season, but I think the division's going to be a bit more spread out than it was last season. I think the gap between some of the better sides and the worst sides it's more significant this season, so I don't think it'll be just as close. But yeah, some decent signings, quite a lot of departures. Another really experienced player for the club, just similar to what we saw with Gateshead in David Ferguson leaving. So that's going to be affecting them again. Never good for the squad to lose a man like that, but it's these things, they happen in football. So yeah, I think they'll be okay. Don't think they'll get relegated, but got them in 10th for me.
Yeah, I've gone just outside the playoff places in 8th place. I think they'll have a good season with some of the signings they've made, as you've both already mentioned. I think Cameron John on loan from York, he's obviously got some really good experience in the upper half of the table after how well York did in the league last season, obviously getting stopped by Barnet, who were unstoppable last year. But good fair experience in the last coming years, so I think that will benefit them against some other teams having that experience in high league. So yeah, signings they've brought in got a lot of experience as well. So new look squad and a new manager coming in as well, who's had really good experience in leagues above. So I think they'll be fighting for the playoffs, but not quite make it in 8th. We now unfortunately on to a club in turmoil at the moment in Morecambe. Very sadly been suspended from the league, and the club at the moment is not even a thing after the owners have just ruined the club completely. Absolutely heartbreaking. Obviously, I'm guessing we've all got them in 24th place. Just have your both your thoughts on the situation, really, because it's just heartbreaking to see a club be just destroyed in general.
Well, I've actually got them 17 because if they can re-establish themselves and meet the criteria to play at this level, they were a Football League club last season.
Yeah.
Well, they finished, 36 points and were relegated well before the end of the season. But there's not been a huge amount of churn. They've obviously, some players have gone, and that situation might change drastically over the next couple of weeks. But if they can sort of establish the credentials they need to play in this division, they've probably got enough to stay up, I would have thought. It would be quite unusual for a club to fall all the way through from League Two down into the National League North. So, but it's a mystery as to whether the bond group that owns the club is going to be able to meet the criteria that the football league is going to put down for them to compete. So it's a mystery, really.
Yeah, it's just an infuriating situation. I mean, at the moment, it doesn't even look like they're going to be able to play any games, so I've had no choice really to put them in 24th. Don't disagree that if they can field players, then and they can field a team, then the ones that they've got will be able to keep them up. But as I said, it's just an infuriating situation. No club should go through that. No fans should go through that. Something that holds close to our heart as Brighton fans, because we know out of our lifetime, George, but Dad, definitely, you know what it's like, and we know what it's like as Brighton fans reading about it and knowing what the club had to go through to get back up to where they are now. It's such a sad situation. As I said, no one should have to deal with that. No club, no fans. And I think one of the big things for me that highlights the problem with modern day football is the fact that you go on to Sky Sports and they're talking about Isak moving to Liverpool for 150 million, and I've not seen them mention Morecambe once. And one of the big things when Brighton were going through it was, what was it called, Dad? EFL. It was all the clubs came together, didn't they? But do you remember the name for it?
No, I can't remember the name, but it was basically every club sent fans or some sort of representation down to the south coast to sort of protest and add solidarity to the Brighton fans and their ongoing struggles with the ownership at the time. It
Yeah,
happens
so
to
I just,
think of we were talking earlier about AFC Halifax. They're a Phoenix club. We spoke before in N League South predictions about Maidstone. They're a Phoenix club. You just wonder whether a club like Morecambe would ever manage to be reborn if they went out of business.
yeah, it does beg the question. It's so frustrating because, as I said, there doesn't seem to be any of that. I've seen one club, a local club to them that's in the Football League. Can't remember which club it was, but they actually said, come along if you're a Morecambe fan and just show your season ticket and we'll give you free entry. So that was brilliant and that's needed because it's such a hard time for the fans and of course just the club in general, everybody associated to it. But it just annoys me that you don't see any coverage on it. You know, on social media you see a little bit, but these Sky Sports and TNT and DAZN, all these massive broadcasters, they could do something about it by giving it a bit of coverage, but it just doesn't seem like anyone wants to. They care more about the money coming in to Newcastle's pocket when they sell Isak. So it's frustrating and it highlights big problems with modern day football, unfortunately. But I wish
Yeah,
them all the best, and I hope really hope they can get out of this situation because it's just awful.
yeah, 100%. I mean, even if they get a new owner and sort of cover out the whole squad space, really. So it's going to be like Bolton Wanderers a few years ago where they just had to field out their under 18s. It's just really sad to see. I think Sheffield Wednesday are in a similar situation. I don't think they can barely field a squad for the first game coming up this weekend. So it's just a common theme in football at the moment. It's really sad to see. So um, we all hope and pray that Morecambe can be saved and their fans can watch their football club once more, which would be brilliant to see. But moving on that, we will move on to Rochdale, club based in Manchester, formed in 1907 and played at Spotland Stadium with 10,000 capacity at the ground. Last season, a very successful season, finishing the playoff places in fourth, but came up short after losing to End 4-3. This will be their third season in the National League after being relegated from League Two, ending their 102-year stay as a Football League club. I mean, that must have been absolutely heartbreaking for the fans. And that long in the football pyramid and you get relegated, it must be horrible. But they're obviously going to be hoping to get back into the Football League. Big news came in. Ian Henderson, the club's all-time top goal scorer, it's extended his contract to keep him at the club. He's played 486 times, scoring 160 times as well, which is absolutely mental. 40 years old, he's still going, so that'll definitely get the fans going.
Respect.
100%. Got to give respect for that. After being a football league club, for so many years, how important do you think it is for the club to get back into the Football League? Because, the owners and fans must be dying to get back there.
Yeah, I think it's imperative. They've obviously carried on as a full-time football club, which we've spoken about before is so important. So unlucky last year, they lost the playoff eliminator against Southend. And last year there was a huge amount of controversy over the ownership of the club, and that was resolved by a $2 million takeover by a guy called Peter Ogden. And I think that fed into the feel-good factor around the club, got them into fourth, as I said, lost to Southend. I think they'll finish sort of in fourth again this season, actually, and I think they will be a real contender in the playoffs. I'm not so sure about Ian Henderson at age 40 being able to cut it, but they've obviously got a huge squad, lots of Football League experience, and now that ownership question and the financial uncertainty around it's been resolved, I think they will be challenging up there again. So fourth for me.
Yeah, I've got finishing in second, actually. Oh no, sorry. Third. Apologies. Yeah, got them finishing in third. Some good signings coming in. To answer your question, yeah, just going to make them. Well, sorry, they're going to be dying for it, and it's going to make them even more hungry to get back in the league. The leagues, obviously the football leagues, and with promotion just missing out last season, it's going to add to it. So I think they're definitely going to be up there again. And yeah, I think just third, because I think Carlisle and team will get on to just got a little bit more. But again, wouldn't be surprised if they went on to get promoted from the playoffs and go one step further than they did last season.
Yeah, fair enough. I've got them in second place. Second for me because I think, team above them are just full of quality. I can't see them not winning this league, so we'll move on to that soon. But I think new look squad, Casey Petit, he was formerly on loan at Lewis, so he looked like a good player when I watched him. So would have thought he is a decent addition for the club. So I think being a National League club at the moment will hurt the club, and I think it will sort of drive them to be going for a promotion spot, winning the title, and if they don't, really pushing to being a playoff winner, because being in this league another year probably will start hurting fans even more. So hopefully we see them back in the Football League next season. Yeah, now moving on to Scunthorpe United, club based in East Lincolnshire, formed back in 1899. Play their home games at Glanford Park. Club returns to the National League after last season saw the club return to the National League after experiencing double relegation in the 22-23 season. But last season, National League North playoffs, where they beat Chester in extra time to win the playoffs. Andy Butler has been at the club for a season now, and he comes into his second season at the club after winning promotion with him last year. So the club have returned to the National League after being in the National League North for 2 seasons. I mean, how important do you think it was to get out of that division to try and get an incline back up the football leagues, because they were, used to be a well-established EFL side?
Yeah, well, they were a Football League club for over 80 years. This is another club that had huge financial problems, which caused a spiral down the leagues, really. At one stage, I think they raised 70 grand for sponsorship with Iron Brew, which obviously reflects on their nickname, the Irons. The fact they came up augurs well. There's a new ownership group in there led by someone called Michel Harness. They've obviously stabilised things. And I think, that momentum will carry them forward into this season. An ex-Football League club, undoubtedly still full-time. I've got them finishing 8th.
Yeah, I've actually got them in the exact same place. They're definitely a sleeping giant. So I think 8th. They're just in a bit of a weird period with obviously the double relegation and then going up again. Now being back in National League, it's a bit of a tough one to call, but it does look like they signed some good players. Not loads of notable departures either. So yeah, I've gone for 8th.
Yeah, myself, I've gone for 14th. I think just slower. I think they'll definitely stay up. No question about that. I just think, same as the National League North, I think it will take them 2 seasons. This season, it will take them a bit of time to set in new players, gel. So yeah, I think this season they'll comfortably stay in the division. Obviously, you two might prove me wrong and definitely push for a promotion playoff spot. But yeah, I just think next season will be their time to really push on and go for a league title, maybe, but for that. Moving on now to Solihull Moors, who are a club based in the West Midlands, formed in 2007 and play at Danson Park, which has a capacity of 5,500 people. Last season saw the club stay in the division after finishing 14th on 58 points. The club have been in the league since the 2017-18 season. Battled to get out of the division since, but obviously, as we can see, have failed ever since. Since the 2016-17 season, the club has made this FA Cup second round 5 times, which is very impressive. Last season was another one to the collection, losing 2-1 to EFL side Bromley, but very consistent in the FA Cup, it seems. Manager Matthew Taylor joined the club in January of last season, who replaced Andrew Irving, who was at the club for 2 seasons before leaving to League Two side Barrow. So Matthew's coming in for his first season at the club, and we can see a lot of departures made. Not many signings brought in. Might be bringing in more signings from trialists and stuff, but with the manager struggling when he came in, I think he had a really poor start. So first pre-season with the squad. After a poor start, I reckon having a pre-season will help the players blend in more with the system he wants to play.
Yeah, I mean they've been in the National League for a long time now, so since 2018. I can't see them getting out of it either way, really. I think having this is another club that's got an experienced manager in Matthew Taylor. That's obviously going to help. They've not got a huge squad, but the squad they've got has got plenty of experience at this level. So probably enough, especially with some of the teams that we've spoken about already struggling. Probably enough to just about stay in the division. I've got them 18th.
Yeah, I actually think they're going to get relegated. I've got them in 22nd. You look at the list of departures, it's got to be closing in on 20 odd, and not loads of notable signings. And the manager, yeah, you said won 4 games out of his first 19, and then they would have had time to settle in a little bit more pre-season, and you can't look into it too much, but they've lost 3 out of 4 games in pre-season as well, so I don't think it bodes well for them with the manager and the new signings, the departures going out the club as well. So that's the reason for me, 22nd and relegated, unfortunately.
Yeah, for me, I'm similar with you both. I think they'll be in a relegation battle this year. I've got them 19th place. I think new manager, coming in halfway through the season is not ideal, but not winning that, only winning 4 of 19 games really isn't best of starts you want. You'd expect them to do better after the previous manager moved up a league at Barrow, so he clearly had a good stint at the club. So as you touched on, Sterling, they've sold a lot but haven't really brought in a lot. So yeah, I think they'll have a bit of a drop off this year in 19th after new manager not really proven himself and lots of departures. So we'll have to wait and see for that with Solihull. Moving on now to Southend, who are a club based in Essex, founded in 1906, who play their games at Roots Hall with capacity, of 12,500 people. Made the playoffs last year, finishing in 7th place on 68 points, but unfortunately lost the final to Oldham after beating Rochdale and Forest Green on their way. So beating teams above them to get there, but unfortunately losing the final at Wembley. Club will now participate in the National League for the 5th season in a row, where they're relegated from League Two in 2020, the 2020-21 season. Got it. After a back-to-back relegation from League One and Two to the National League now. But with the manager, as I'm going to move on to now, the manager's been there since October 2021, managed them nearly 200 times. Do you think it's credit to the manager because the club's been in some financial difficulties that stayed at the club since while they've been going still at the club now? So do you think that's really just like he has a really good connection with the club?
Yeah, I think he does, and I think he realises the potential there because they're a football league club for a long time. This is actually one of the clubs that we've seen play because Brighton played them back in 2015, I think it was, in an EFL Cup match that we went to, one of Sterling's first away games, and I remember being behind the goal at that game and
first ever away game.
Yeah, seeing some of the shenanigans that were going on. Somehow Brighton kept it 0-0 to the 93rd minute, and then Kazenga Lualua broke away and scored a winning goal.
Absolute limbs.
I smashed my knee on the seats because they were so rammed together. I don't think I was going to be able to drive back home to Sussex because my knee ballooned up. But yeah, I mean, they've had a huge amount. And we talk about the financial difficulties of other clubs. This lot have had huge problems. They've been threatened with winding up petitions from the taxman. The club supporters have actively thought about forming a Phoenix club because they thought they were just hours from going out of business. So the manager staying there, I think, reflects, tremendous loyalty on his part, but also reflects the fact that he could see that if they could stay together and keep the club going, they are a genuine football league outfit with the support to match, if not quite the stadium. I mean, I think they made a loss last season, but the loss wasn't because they owed money to people. It's because they were ploughing money back into the club in terms of training facilities and things like that. So I think they're going to do really well this season. I've got them finishing 5th. I think they're unlucky to lose to Oldham last season in the playoff final 3-2. So I think they're more than capable of repeating that, getting into the playoff final. And anything can happen in a one-off game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them as a Football League club after this season.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think it's credit to the manager. You love to see it, him staying with the club, a bit of loyalty there. You like to see that. It's really good. Yeah, good season last season. have retained most of the squad as well. Only 3 notable departures we got down here, and some good new signings as well. Colchester, Sheffield United, Notts County, and Slough players coming in from. So definitely good there, and yeah, definitely got a soft spot for Southend and Roots Hall as well in my heart. That was brilliant away day. Went on the pier. I was pretty terrified. I can't lie. When I was a little bit younger, going out on that dodgy old pier, but yeah, Roots Hall, absolute gaff, and yeah, fond memories. So I'll be rooting for them. I've got them in 5th.
Yeah, 6th for me. Completely respect what you both are saying. That's brilliant to hear at the old Roots Hall. So definitely backing them in the National League after hearing that. First away days are always the best ones you always love. So yeah, definitely. I think it's also credit to the manager, as I said in my question, being at a club while the club's in financial problems is really credit to him, not moving on to a different club. So credit to him, and as you said, some decent signings there. Kept the core of the squad, which got in playoffs last season. So I think they'll get them again after improving on it, improving on their squad from the season before. So 6th place for me. Moving on now to Sutton United, who are a club based in South London, formed back in 1898 and play their games at Gander Green Lane, which has a capacity of 7,000 people. Sutton finished mid-table last year in the National League, 12th place on 60 points, 8 points off the playoffs, 8 points off of relegation, which we've seen from another club. As I've said a couple of times, which shows how tightly the league was last season. They returned to the National League after being in League Two for 3 seasons, so they've returned to the National League after their EFL. But Steve Morrison has been the manager since 2023. 135 times he's managed the club, so decent stint at the club so far. But as we see on our information list here, they've had a massive new look squad going season. So do you think it's on the basis of mid-tables, not where they want to be? They want a new squad and play season.
Yeah, undoubtedly. But the trouble with a team like Sutton going through this big revamp that they've done is that they're better teams than them in the division. We've talked about some of these ex-football league clubs like Forest Green and Rochdale, Southend. You really need stability to challenge them, I think, and I don't think having that big churn's gonna get them into those or to the upper reaches of the table. Although I wouldn't be surprised to see them challenging for the playoffs. I've got them 9th because they're obviously adding quality to the squad, but that lack of stability, I think, is going to cost them against some of those more established ex-football league clubs, of which there are plenty, and it's going to be those clubs that really are going to keep Sutton out of those top positions.
Yeah, sorry, just had to put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I'm getting loads of notifications. I agree with a lot of what you said there about Sutton. I do think they're going to have quite a good season, though. I know it's been a lot of churn going in and out with the squad, but they've kept a few of their most crucial players from last season. Top goal scorer Will Davies has stayed in. And they looked to have recruited quite well as well. That Liam Vincent from Tunbridge Angels, we spoke about in last episode. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, a little bit of a sleeping giant, been in the league before. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I've got them finishing 6th.
Yeah, 7th for me, just in a playoff spot. I think, as you've both said, I think the signings they've made are from the league and also leagues above. So I think a big name signing is Ashley, who comes from Crawley after being a real big name player for them last season to sort of cement their place in mid-table. So Yeah, I think with the new squad, manager being at the club for a long time, I think that can really help them push for a playoff spot and maybe get into League Two next season with a decent playoff run. So, yeah, 7th for me. Confidence in Sutton going into next. Now moving on to Tamworth, who are a club based in Stratfordshire and were founded back in 1933. Who play at the Lamb Ground with 5,000 people. A very successful season back in the National League for the first time since 2014. 10th place, 64 points, only 4 points off the playoffs in the end, so a decent season. On top of their, which was very famously documented after they played Spurs, bringing them to extra time, famously. So massive achievement for them, which definitely got some social media publicity, 100%. This was with manager Andy Peakes, who's brought the club back up the English football pyramid a little bit, where he's been at the club since February 2022. Been managing the club 150 times now after he was AFC Rushden Diamonds, where he left them after 8 years. So it was a big move for him to move to the club, and it clearly has paid off. So how beneficial do you think their cup run was last season for the club in general?
Hugely, but I think we've spoken to before about 3G pitches, and I don't think Spurs fancied that 3G pitch at Tamworth at all. I watched that game, and yeah, Spurs were definitely psychologically holding back a little bit. I mean, they're back in the National League. I think they've established themselves last season. I can't see them pulling up any trees. I've got them finishing 15th.
Yeah, exactly the same. I think the FA Cup run definitely helped, probably more so than anything financially and psychologically, of course. But I think the main aspect of that would have been the financial benefit. I do think exactly the same. They've established themselves with first season back in the league, surviving. I think this season's going to be similar, but I don't think they're going to pull up any trees. So I've got them in 13th.
Yeah, similar to both of you. I think, as you've both said, brilliant to see them go on an FA Cup run last year, and I think it was a really beneficial time for the club. Obviously, put on a great performance, bringing Spurs, the eventual Europa League champions, to an extra time. Obviously, that's where Spurs really dominated the game. But yeah, I think that would be a real confidence boost, and I think it was after they had that tie. I think they really pushed on after they had it. So yeah, I think it might be beneficial for them this season. I mean, I haven't had that in my predictions. I think they're going to finish lower than that, but for me, 16th place, and yeah, I think they're going to drop off a tad after departures and signings not to note of, really. So, yeah, 16th for me for Tamworth. Moving on now to Truro City. Truro are a club based in Cornwall and formed back in 1899. Play at the Truro City Stadium. Very, very creative. I like that. Play with a capacity of 3,600 people. Last season saw them win the National League South title and what was an absolutely mental title race, as we all saw. So the club has now climbed 2 divisions in 3 seasons, so credit to them. Manager has been at the club for nearly matches, so short since so far. Before Chiro's at York, Hartlepool, Port Vale, to name a few clubs, and he also won manager of the season last year at the National South. So congratulations to him. On to my question. This is the highest league they've played in. So how important do you think it is for the club to try stay in the division and cement their place in the league and try not get back down to the National League South?
Yeah, well, obviously hugely important. The fact they've kept hold of Tyler Harvey is going to be beneficial. He scored loads of goals, 107 goals in 171 appearances, so obviously he knows where the back of the net is. The trouble is that he's going to be like a lot of players at that club. When he's been at higher levels, he's not really cut it. He had 11 games for Wrexham back in 2016-17, for example, didn't score a single goal. He's obviously comfortable at Truro. I just think that it's a step up, and we've spent a lot of time today talking about these ex-football league clubs that are full time in this division. They're going to have a struggle against that sort of depth, I think, because their squad is comparatively small, and I don't think it's got the requisite experience to finish anywhere other than last.
Yeah, I've stuck my neck out a little bit with Truro. They had a really good season, obviously, just edging that title race last season in the National League South. I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen, but fair play to them, they did. I stuck my neck out and said, I think they're going to survive. I think they're going to come 20th. It's undoubtedly going to be a really hard season for them. Excuse me. And some of the new signings that they've signed are a bit of a boggling one. Harry Kite, he's barely played any games last season. I think it was 7 games. Lirak Hassani played 3 games from Torquay. So last season, pretty much a bench warmer all season. So yeah, definitely strange ones there. Don't think they were recruited that well, but holding on to Tyler Harvey, as we mentioned, is massive. I think that's going to bolster the squad, just having him stay on and keeping pretty much the whole spine of it. So I think for that reason, I stuck my neck out and said 20th.
Yeah, it's completely fair enough. I can see why you have. I've agreed with Simon on this occasion. I put him in 22nd. I think I said it before about Brackley. I think they'll have a really good chance just because of the points tally they've got in the league the season before, and how much I bet it would have been really, really tough for them, seeing like how much competitiveness that other teams around them had in the league last season. So massive credit to them for winning the league last season in that division. But as you said, the new signings aren't really like making me go wow. So for that reason, I'm going to put them in a relegation spot but I think they'll definitely battle, as you say, Sterling, for safety. So good luck to them. Moving on now to Wealdstone, who are a club based in Greater London, formed back in 1899 and play at Grosvenor Vale. There we go, just that. And have a capacity of 4,000 people. Last season, they stayed up just by 1 point after they stayed up on the last day versus Halifax to stay in the division. This is a club's 6th division since they got promoted from the National League South, so very used to this league. Manager Sam Cox has previously been at the club before, who was interim manager and kept the side in the league, I think 2 seasons ago. He's also been well known on social media now for being manager of Angry Ginge at the Baller League for United. So well-known manager now, really. So that will help him have more fans on his side, you could say. Now he's had that Baller League managerial experience. But coming into this season, does it send a big warning sign to the club that they've nearly been relegated 2 seasons in a row?
Yeah, definitely. And you need to bolster your squad in terms of size and experience. And if you look at the squad itself, it's not particularly large, but if you actually barrow down into the sort of experience in the squad, it's very, very thin. Very thin indeed. I mean, there's a guy, Anthony Giorgio, plays at the back, who's got some experience playing in Cyprus and for the Cyprus national team, who's 28. And you look at a player like that and you think he maybe had played 300, 400 games. And it's not anywhere near that. He's barely played 100 games because everywhere he's been, he's obviously not been able to break into the first team. So there's lots of players like that at the club who, pick another one out. Conor McAvoy, 23. He's barely played 40 games of football at places like Wealdstone on loan, and that's all he's done. So it's lacking in that experience, I think. I've got them finishing 21st because I think they're poorer teams than them in the division, but they're definitely light on quality in terms of the squad depth, and I can't see them finishing any higher than that. And only finishing 21st basically because there's some poorer teams than them in the division. I wouldn't be surprised to see them finishing a lot lower than that.
Yeah, I echo what you've just said. I've actually got them in 16th. Mainly, I think because, well, maybe I've messed it up because I do think that they could come a bit lower, but we're going to stick to my guns. Got them 16th. I do think there's teams lower down than them that I've got in there, just that are a bit weaker, but I could see them dropping into relegation as well. They've not recruited the best, and some of the outgoings, top goal scorer Alex Reed's gone to Hartlepool, Callum Sessi to Salford, so that's going to be a massive miss for them as well. I do just think they're going to struggle. 16th for me, but would not be surprised if that's one that I get horribly wrong.
Yeah, fair enough. I've gone 20th, so just staying up. Agreeing with you there, Sterling, on staying up, but I agree with Simon on the part of I think they'll definitely be threatening relegation this season. I think the signings they've brought in are from decent levels. Saka Sam is one I know. He's a very, very good winner. I think he plays for the Somalian national team. So good experience there. They've lost experience at the back, as you said last episode, Simon, with Craig Eastman. He's gone to Eastbourne Borough. Aaron Mariappa, who's also an experienced so they've lost. And also, as you said, Sterling, Alex Reed going to Hartlepool. So they've lost some key players in the squad, and I think that's part of the reason they won't really push on again. And relegation battle for me, but just staying up in the end for Wealdstone. Moving on now to Woking, who are a club based in Surrey, founded back in 1887 and play their football at the Kingfield Stadium with a capacity of just over 6,000 people in their ground. Last season saw them finish below mid-table in 15th from 58 points, just 6 points off the drop. This will be the club's 7th season participating in the league, so very experienced, as we've seen from some other clubs as well. Manager Neil Ardley joined the club December last season, managing the club 29 times so far. Only lost 4 of his games so far, but he has drawn 13 of them, winning 12 times. But doesn't like to lose games, as we can see here. Previous to this, he had a 6-year managerial stint at Wimbledon, so got experience in the EFL as a manager, so that's good to see. But with the manager having a really successful half a season, you haven't seen it. I think it was Solihull Moors with the other manager, but this manager clearly has adapted to the side very well. How do you think having half a season done very well? How do you think having a full season will benefit the players, knowing they've got results last season, and how they can bring them into this season?
Yeah, well, it can't hurt, can it? But I think the trouble is the lack of quality in the squad overall, really. I mean, they're obviously an established team at this level. We've already talked about clubs that are going to be much stronger than them and much weaker than them. So I've actually got them bang in the middle, 14th.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a similar season for Woking as it was last season. To answer your question, yeah, it definitely brings momentum in having the manager have a good second half of the season. Definitely better than the other team that we saw. I can't remember which team it was.
Solihull,
Solihull, who the manager had really not a very good start last season with second half of it. So it's definitely beneficial, but I just think it's going to be very similar. There's been a lot of departures and not loads of notable new signings coming in as well. So I think it's going to be hard for them to push on with that, but with them being established, I do think they'll come 15th again. There's actually a bloke at my work who's a massive Woking fan, and he showed me some photos and told me stories, and it seems like they got a really good fan base, so that could help him out, no doubt. But a lot of the clubs in this division have really good fans, so yeah, 15th for me.
Yeah, nice. For me, 10th. I think they're an established club in this league, got experience in it, as some some clubs in this league don't have. So I think that, as I've said before about some other clubs, it's quite beneficial for them. As you said, Sterling losing a lot of players and quite decent players as well. Denon Lewis to Dorking, Lewis Walker to Braintree, Dan Moss to Rochdale. So players from this team going into other clubs into the league. So they'll be seeing a lot of familiar faces next season. But new signings coming in, not that I'm aware of really, but I think the manager having a really successful second half of the season will fit them going into this season, and I've got them finishing in 10th place. So improved season from last for Woking. Moving on now to our second to last team, Yeovil Town, based in Somerset, formed back in 1895 and play at Hewish Park with a capacity of just over 9,500 people. Last season was the side's first time back in the league after being promoted from the National League South quite comfortably, 23-24 season. Last season they finished in 18th place, just 4 points off the red zone, so quite a scare. They were relegated to the National League in 2018-19, which ended a 16-year stay in the EFL, yet to return since. But Mark Cooper's been at the club since October 2022 now, managed the club 132 times so far. So got experience at the club. Another similar situation with a team well known in the EFL dropping down leagues and struggling to get back up. Does it show the quality of non-league football sort of growing and making it more difficult for EFL clubs to get back to where they were before?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Yeovil were a championship club 2013, 2014. I mean, they did finish stone last, but, you know, they got that in their history, recent history, which is only, 11, 12 years ago. So when you talk about some of the clubs that we've been talking about in terms of Tamworth and Boston and Solihull Moors, they're up against teams like this. And I just, there's too much inherited quality in teams like this that are going to make it difficult for those sorts of teams to challenge them, I think. And it's interesting, I've just been looking at my predictions, and apart from Eastleigh, all of my top 9 are ex-Football League clubs, and then the rest of the Football League clubs that are outside that top 9 aren't far behind that. Yeah. And I've got Yeovil in 12th as a classic example. It comes down to that inherited sort of quality that they're going to have in the squad, but also the fan base as well. Remember, Yeovil, not a huge amount of competition around where they play in North Somerset there, so they're going to get good crowds there. They're going to attract decent players. I mean, we talked about Gateshead. They're going to struggle to attract people to go up to the northeast to play football, whereas going to Yeovil is a fairly attractive proposition, I would have thought. So, yeah, I've got them 12th, but I could see them finishing higher, and I think they are destined to go back up into the Football League at some stage. But as you said, George, it's just the depth of quality at this level is really surprising when you delve into it. And it goes back to the point we made earlier about the quality of manager you're getting at this level. You know, these people aren't doing it for the money, are they? They're doing it for the kudos, for the sort of the glory that goes with managing a successful football club. And I think it's a testament to quality, really. So yeah, Yeovil 12th for me.
Yeah, it definitely shows the quality of not only the National League but the English football pyramid as well. So much quality throughout the leagues. And I've got them finishing seventh. I do feel like they'll push on a little bit higher than what Dad's predicted there. And yeah, they've kept some crucial players like Morgan Williams, captain, crucial centre half now. Recruited some guys on loan, well, keeper on loan from Bristol City, another guy called Luke McCormick from Bristol Rovers as well. So some good signings there. There has been a few departures as well, but I just think the stature of the club and good season last season. Staying in the league, then I just think they'll surprise a few people and just get back up there.
Yeah, fair enough. I've got him in playoffs, same as you, Sterling, in fifth place myself, a little bit higher. I think staying up the first season, I think I said it for Scunthorpe. I think the first season is crucial for staying in the division. I think Yeovil did that last season, and I think this season's going to be the year that they push on, go for a promotion spot, and I've got them in a playoff spot in fifth place. Like you said, keeping the main centre half, Morgan Williams is a massive thing. I remember when I watched Eastbourne Borough versus Yeovil when they were in the National League South. He was top draw, and he stays at the club, which I think is a massive thing for them. As you said, Sterling, I think they've brought in some really good EFL quality. Junior Morias, I think, class player, League Two quality as well. I think he's an attacker. Might be wrong, but as well, Jed Ward on loan, good proven goalkeeper in EFL, and Luke McCormick from Bristol Rovers. So some good signings, and I think they've got a good chance of getting into playoffs this season. This moves us on to our last team of the episode, probably the most interesting team to talk about in York City. After they are from North Yorkshire, formed in 1922 and played at the York Community Stadium with 8,500 people. Being allowed into the ground. York narrowly missed out on the EFL last season on 96 points, 6 points off of the title to Barnet. They then unfortunately lost 3-0 to Oldham, who eventually went up, which was a massive shock at the time after what was an unbelievable season in the process for York. Fourth time in the division since being promoted from the National League North. Tough times for them trying to get out of this division badly. Manager Adam Hinshelwood, which I hope we all know, being son of Brighton legend Hinshelwood. He joined York in February 2024 after leaving Worthing after 7 years. He kept the club in the division midway through the 2023-24 season. So since then, he's been really pushing on for the club to be an EFL side. So one massive thing, they've kept Ollie Pearce, who was the club and league top goal scorer last season with 31 goals, which I think is a massive thing that they've kept him in the side. So York, I would have thought the favourites to go up this season. Do you feel, knowing they're the favourites to go up, it will add a bit of pressure onto the players?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is going to put pressure on them, but when you look at the depth and the quality of their squad, they really should not be anywhere other than first. That's where I've got them finishing. They can have pressure put on them, but Hinshelwood's the sort of manager with the experience that he's got that's going to be able to manage those expectations. I think keeping Ollie Pearce, big bonus. But everywhere you look in that squad, it's got experience and quality. It's not particularly old as a squad, but in terms of the quality and their experience of playing in this level of football and higher is huge. They're a football league club. I expect them to be a football league club after the end of this season. First for me.
Yeah, I've also got them in first. I think last season they were unlucky to not go up. Barnet won the league, didn't they? They were really strong. So if it wasn't for them, they would have won the division. And the playoffs is lottery, and definitely a shock with the 3-0 result to Oldham. But yeah, massive keeping Ollie Pearce. He just goes from strength to strength. He was absolute baller at Worthing, banging in the goals, and he's carried on banging in the goals for York. So that's massive for them. Adam Hinchelwood, as we touched on, comes from that football family with the Hinchelwoods. So he obviously knows what he's talking about. He's gifted in that sense, and we know that from his time at Worthing and obviously what he's doing at York that he's very good manager, got a nice style of play. They play good football, so the 100% favourites. There is pressure that comes with that, but I think now getting promoted from National League North, staying in this league in their first season,
Yeah.
and then just missing out on promotion last season. This is going to be their year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The club's just building step by step. I think this is the last step for them to get out of this division. I just think if they don't win this league, it's a real shock. The signings they've brought in as well, Ben Brooks, who was unbelievable in the National League South last year from Maidstone, Ashley Palmer from Chester, Ollie Banks from Chesterfield, Heran Boating from Mansfield. They're just bringing in EFL quality players as well, players from the National League who have proven themselves in the league as well. So I just think it's their lose really, and with the quality of Adam Hinchelwood as a manager, I think he'll thrive under the pressure, and I think the players will as well. And I think they'll comfortably win this league, in my opinion. So first place for me as well. Which brings us to the end of this episode. National League is done. National League South is done, and the Isthmian Premier Division is done. So non-league football done. Predictions. So hopefully you've enjoyed these sorts of episodes, longer ones. Episodes will now probably be reduced with League One, League Two, and the Championship, and then the big one, the Premier League. So we'll be looking forward to creating these episodes in the weeks to come. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I've been George. You too.
Cheers.
Yeah, I'm Sterling. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and we're on Instagram and TikTok now. So
Yeah.
look out for that. Cheers for
Yeah.
listening.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.